G'day, my name's Glenn Hunberg. I'm the pastor of Risen Church in Brisbane. Sometimes people think, well, can I trust the Bible? Can I trust the New Testament? More particularly, can I trust the Gospels, the records about Jesus' life? Simple answer is absolutely, yes, you can. I've got a few reasons for that. One, the Gospel writers reveal who they are and their relationship. So in Luke's Gospel, Luke says in the first few sentences, I wasn't there, but he says, I've carefully investigated everything. I've carefully talked to the eyewitnesses of these events. It's the same language of an investigative journalist. And he actually interviews people and records those records. And so he sees what he's doing as a public record about Jesus. Now, there's an interesting things here about Luke, for instance. For a while there, scholars like, Luke's got things wrong. He's named the wrong people at the wrong place, and he doesn't really know what he's talking about. Actually, archaeology has proven again and again that Luke's right. For instance, there's one ruler who Luke mentions, and he says the census happened during a certain time, and there was a certain guy who was a ruler, and people like the scholars were like, that ruler he never lived, we don't have any records. Well, guess what? A plaque turned up, in the last couple of hundred years, where the name of that ruler did live at that time, and Luke was right. And that's happened many times. That shows that Luke actually was an accurate writer. So Luke wasn't there, but two other gospel writers probably were, Matthew and John, and they were part of the events that unfolded and offer their perspectives along the way. And for Mark's gospel, it was probably written by John Mark, but the disciple, the apostle Peter, was his eyewitness source, and there's hints there. Another example in Mark's gospel, it talks about Jesus getting in the boat with his disciples and going across Galilee. And the skeptics used to say, whoa, no. The ancient Jews at the round of the first century, they didn't have boats that big that would have fitted 12 or 13 men in it. That's a load of hokey, it's all made up. Well, guess what happened? 1986, there's a sandstorm and a boat is revealed, and it is just the right size for 13 men. It's kind of 8 meters long, it's 4 meters wide, and about 2 meters deep. And so we see again that the writers of the Gospels actually were trying to record things accurately. Another happens in the Gospel of John. For ages, John mentions this pool, the Pool of Siloam, if that's how you pronounce it, and archaeologists couldn't find it in the city of Jerusalem, and skeptics were like, John's just making it all up. But just Google it. Sure enough, in some excavations, they found this pool, this kind of public bathing place. So again and again, actually history has borne out that the writers of the Gospel saw themselves as not as writing myths, but they saw themselves giving public witness to the events around Jesus. And here's what's interesting is they wrote within the lifetime of the people who saw those events. So it was easy for people to dispute the things that were said because they were written within the lifetime. They weren't written 300 years later. Yes, some of our copies of what was written come 300 years later, but actually the writings were within the lifetime of people who saw those events. And so they could be publicly disputed. But instead they spread like wildfire because they were trusted. There's one more element here that's really interesting, that the gospel writers along the way do really interesting things. They name drop. So they share the names of a couple of people, but they might share what they did for work, or they share who their parents were. Why? Well, because those people were part then of the Christian community, and so you could go and follow up that person and go and talk to them and check the facts of the conversation. So can we trust the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, as sources about Jesus? Absolutely. And you know what? Historians don't view them as one single source that's biased just because it's religious. Historians actually view the New Testament as up to 8 separate sources. And they say that Jesus is his existence is the most established historical fact we can have. No mainstream historian doubts the existence of Jesus, to quote my friend John Dixon. And so you can be confident that as you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels and the New Testament, you're reading biography, you're reading history. And I encourage you to do that. If to reject Christianity, to reject Jesus, then actually you need to have a strong basis to reject the Gospels and their historical records. Thanks so much for listening. I hope this is really helpful to you.